Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom is presented by Mutual of Omaha, people you can count on. From the Soviet Union, a special wildlife report.
Welcome to Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. Today we come to you again from the interior of the USSR at the invitation of the Soviet government. Last week, in part one of this special report, we observed the conservation activities at the famed Voronezh Preserve during the depths of winter. We saw many of the animals which reside in this vast restored wilderness, from the little tuft-eared squirrels inhabiting the trees to the large European stags, which are regularly relocated from here to other places in the country where they are low in number. This week, in part two of our special report, we'll concentrate more closely on the scientific research and conservation programs here at Voronezh, as well as the wildlife when winter breaks up and becomes a beautiful spring and summer. The Russian winter is long and cold, which only makes the arrival of spring that much more breathtaking and appreciated. As snows thaw and open water instead of ice fills the marshes, Voronezh Preserve is abruptly transformed into a new and beautiful world. I've witnessed the arrival of spring in many locations throughout the world, but rarely any as flower-filled and lovely as the Russian spring. Soon, all of the thousands of birdhouses that have been attached to the trees here will be occupied. The air will be filled with the uncertain voices of young birds, and the forest floor will be shared by the animals, such as this little hedgehog, which has slept all through the bitter winter. He's quite valuable to the balance of nature here in Voronezh because he eats many destructive insects. He's not too difficult to handle since he won't bite, and his sharp spines don't come out, as do those of the American porcupine. All of the Voronezh animals are protected with equal vigor, and numerous warning signs are posted to help protect them. Some say, poachers are the enemy of nature. Another sign is for protecting the birds. It says, "Don't you dare. Birds are our true helpers in the battle against insects that are harmful to the forest." Here at Voronezh Preserve headquarters, the garden is in full bloom, and in the center of it, a bust of Lenin, founder of the modern Soviet state and one of the most noteworthy leaders in world history. Adjacent to this garden, one of the many conservation education programs is just beginning. Even the very young take part in some projects which teach them a healthy respect for nature and why conservation is necessary. Here, the children of the Voronezh community learn to construct birdhouses to be erected in the woods to attract wild birds, which act as a natural deterrent to injurious insects.
Так, ребят, ну вы уже видите перед вами скворечник. Ну, вы его уже, все скворечники вы видели, но делать вам, наверное, еще ни разу не приходилось. Вот, я вам расскажу, как, ну...
Their instructor is Nikolai Papanov, who knows that the future of the USSR lies in children.
Так, ну и все.
Children who will carry this appreciation for nature into their adult lives, and perhaps some of them will become world leaders in conservation of precious and diminishing natural resources. They, in their own way and in their own time, may help to make the world a better place. There is an aura of vibrancy in the air when spring comes to the Russian forest. The sun filters through the leaves and dapples the forest floor in shimmering golden patterns. There's a special zest for life at such times among all living things, and traces of animal activity abound, such as these tooth marks from beavers. Here are 3 quite large birch trees that were felled by beavers in almost the same pattern, toward the water they've impounded with their dam. Here in the preserve, spring is really the season when the beaver story begins. This is when they bear their young and establish a whole generation of offspring in this re-established wilderness. Through very specialized photography, we will go underwater with the beavers and even follow them into the interior of their lodges, such as the big one, out there. The European river beavers, by creating water impoundments, provide homes for many other animals, including frogs croaking loudly at the height of courtship. Like some frogs familiar to American waters, these Russian frogs also expand the sides of the neck in 2 bubbles so tight it seems they would pop. The beavers which built this large lodge symbolize Voronezh Preserve's fame. At one time, extinction threatened these beavers. Only about 1,000 remained alive in all of the Soviet Union. Now there are over 135,000 beavers in the country, and about half of these descended from beavers born at Voronezh Preserve. In 1932, a beaver farm was established at Voronezh in an effort to successfully breed them in captivity and to study their biology and diseases. However, like this one grooming himself, most beavers here live in a wild state. They utilize their front paws like hands to hold the leaves and bark of the birch aspens which make up the bulk of their diet. Food is plentiful and the beavers increase rapidly. Anytime their population increases sharply, the excess beavers are relocated elsewhere in the country. The result is one of the most successful animal restoration programs ever accomplished in the world. Voronezh Preserve is a natural home for more than merely the beavers. Many other animals roam as freely, and so though protecting man, the beavers must keep alert for predators such as wolves, which are rare at Voronezh Preserve. Wolves prey on beavers, and so the beavers must always keep alert to the possibility of being attacked. The wolf knows he's lost his chance now, but even though he's leaving, other beavers echo the warning splash. The safest place in an emergency situation is in the lodge, entered through an underwater tunnel. The beaver is very safe now inside the roomy lodge, and for the moment he is reunited with his family. His mate is one of the black beavers, and so are the kits. They're a valuable color variation from the ordinary brown. Black beavers like this mother and kits are now being selectively bred at Voronezh, the result of concerted genetic research here. The interior of the lodge itself is well above the water level and ideal for the family's protection. The lodge is built by the beavers with interlaced branches cemented together with mud, creating an almost impervious fortress. Beavers have an advanced social structure and share the labors of dam and lodge construction. The birch and aspen branch beaver is now bringing into the lodge will be bitten into small chips by her. The purpose of this is to create a pleasantly cushioned floor for comfort. The kits are born with their eyes open, their bodies fully furred, and front teeth well developed. Still, it will be some time before they'll venture out of the den alone. Adult beavers are only too aware of the hazards the outside world holds for their young. A red fox on shore pauses in hopes of catching a careless baby beaver, but only the father beaver is in sight, and he's much too big for her. Before heading farther away to hunt, the fox returns to her den to make sure her own half-grown pups are all right. As she sometimes does with them, the mother nips at their sides until they fall on their backs, exposing their vulnerable bellies. The instinctive action of canine submission. There's no doubt that she's the top of the pecking order here. But as for which cub is second in dominance, that's a matter which two of the pups have decided to settle for themselves. With peace prevailing again, the mother fox leaves to resume her hunting. Here at the beaver pond, the mother fox may encounter some sort of prey smaller than a beaver. These beaver ponds attract much wildlife and are very important to the ecological balance of the Voronezh Preserve. Although the woods and wildlife are of utmost importance, the real heart of Voronezh Preserve is the corps of skilled scientists who work at the various laboratories here. Perhaps foremost among these departments is the Laboratory of Veterinary Medicine, where we are right now. We're in the operating room of the veterinary lab with the chief of this department, Dr. Vitaly Romashov. In keeping with the pioneering research prevailing at Voronezh, this is the first beaver here ever to have its heartbeat recorded on an electrocardiograph. Experimental projects like this could prove valuable in establishing basic physiological patterns. Now the excited beaver is becoming calmer. The printed heartbeat becomes Dr. Romashov's permanent record, but a tape recorder provides him with amplified sound of the heartbeat. This is an aid in establishing a heartbeat pattern. This research is important to a broad understanding of the physiology of the beaver, one of nature's most remarkable mammals. Such experiments are not made regularly, but each breeding stock beaver kept at Voronezh headquarters is physically examined monthly.
Спокойно, 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 спокойно.
These EKG records will be kept by Dr. Romashaw for comparison with other beaver heartbeats to be recorded in the future. Putting modern technological methods to work like this is indicative of keen foresight in animal conservation among the Soviet people. They know the importance of in-depth physical studies. Victor Krukov, beaver handler, is skilled at keeping the beaver calm for Dr. Romashaw during the tests. The electrocardiograph readings are finished, and Dr. Romashaw, satisfied with the recordings he has made, removes the EKG electrode so the beaver can now be returned to her breeding pen.
Молодец ты. Так, Алла Андреевна, уберите это, пожалуйста.
In the Voronezh Preserve Veterinary Laboratory, the chief assistant is Alia Bakareva, skilled at working with beavers and an invaluable aid in the type of testing yet to be done. Now, still in the operating room, Dr. Romashaw begins some tests on another beaver to determine its health, to see if any sort of treatment is indicated for disease, injury, or parasites.
Возьмите, Алла Андреевна, пожалуйста. И дайте мне пинцет.
Dr. Romashaw regularly checks the teeth of the beavers for splits or uneven growth. Sometimes the beavers, like this large male, graphically express their attitude toward dental examination.
Я же хочу помочь, а ты что ж делаешь? Ну не надо же так, ну что же ты так делаешь-то? Ну не надо, пожалуйста. Ну вот, вот молодец.
Beaver teeth grow more than an inch in a month. In the wild, they're kept worn down by gnawing on trees. Sometimes beaver teeth may grow unevenly and thus have to be filed back. The teeth on this beaver are fine, so now for another important examination, a blood test. Another good beaver assistant is Maria Popova. The doctor cleans the tail area where the blood will be drawn. Antiseptic on the swab prevents the possibility of infection from the small cut he makes. Usually 3 blood samples and a smear are taken for various laboratory tests. Today, however, Alia Bakareva has been instructed by Dr. Romashaw to draw only 1 sample, a simple test for a red corpuscle count.
Хорошо.
The veterinary beaver records kept by Dr. Romashaw are valuable in helping future beavers raised on this preserve to be healthy. This beaver has been deemed to be surplus and soon will be taken to another preserve for relocation. Some of the surplus beavers are being relocated today. This is one of many beavers taken to new areas from Voronezh as part of the general program for re-establishing throughout the Soviet Union. Some are released on other preserves where they're scarce, and others are turned loose in wild country. All this is a tribute to the highly successful program at Voronezh Preserve. We're taking him for release to a preserve located north of Voronezh and about 72 miles southwest of Moscow. It is the Priosko-Terasnya Preserve, a special European bison sanctuary symbolized by this insignia. A few Voronezh Preserve beavers have already been released in this beautiful area, and chances are this one will quickly find a mate among the beavers which have established a water impoundment here with their dam. There's a great feeling of satisfaction and accomplishment experienced by the Voronezh personnel each time they relocate an animal in a new area. They know the act is one more stone added to the ever-strengthening foundation of restoration of a species. The Priosko-Terraznia Preserve is better known as the Bison Range, after the European bison, which were restored here to a healthy population level in a miraculous recovery program. These enormous, purebred European bison were once so close to extinction that only several remained alive in zoological parks. In a very successful breeding program, they've now been increased to 400 in the Soviet Union alone. Now that we've seen the preservation efforts in the Soviet Union, I'm sure that conservationists the world over can take heart. The Soviets in their program have proven that desperately endangered animals can be saved from extinction. Through the free exchange of information, as outlined in the broad scientific exchange program between Soviet and American scientists, both countries pool the best of their knowledge and experience so that in the future, not only these countries, but the entire world becomes the beneficiary. For this to happen, all nations must do their part to help conserve the natural resources and wildlife of their own lands. The Soviet-American effort helps point the way. This is international cooperation at its best, and the result will be that animals presently will still be with us in future years as an appreciated part of the wild kingdom.
Mutual of Omaha, people you can count on, has presented Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom.